The Young and the Restless spoilers for the next 2 weeks, August 17th through August 28th, suggest that power struggles, dangerous temptation, surprising returns, and emotional confrontations are all about to shake up Genoa City. I think Billy Abbott's obsession with taking over Chancellor could become the center of a much bigger battle, especially once Victor Newman decides to get involved. After Jack Abbott tells Ashley and Tracy about Billy's discoveries in the Chancellor archives, Kane Ashby will waste little time seeking the Abbotts' help. But I was wondering if Kane will eventually realize that he needs someone with much more power on his side. That could lead him straight to Victor. Victor, of course, may see Billy's Chancellor crusade as an opportunity. I think he'll make a bold move against Billy and try to turn the entire situation into a scandal. If Victor can make Billy's claims about the loan and its lack of repayment look questionable, he could seriously damage Billy's case and possibly stop the takeover before it gets any further. Meanwhile, Danny Romalotti will have a much sweeter moment when he performs a new song for Christine Blair Romalotti. Christine should be quite happy with the serenade, giving the couple a welcome break from all the chaos surrounding them. Victoria Newman and Kyle Abbott will also continue growing closer. Their connection has been getting more interesting, and I think their feelings could become harder for either of them to ignore. Kyle, however, will have plenty of problems of his own when he takes on a damage control mission to keep Jabot from being dragged into the middle of Billy's Chancellor war. Then there's Sharon Newman, who will have another encounter with Matt Clark at the coffee house. Matt will apparently hope that Sharon is ready to forgive him, but I'm not convinced she'll be willing to do that. With Nick Newman struggling through his recovery, Sharon has far more important concerns on her mind. Sharon will eventually check in with Nick's rehab facility to see how he's doing. I think his recovery journey could continue creating emotional complications for everyone around him, particularly Sharon. There's also an exciting return ahead. Trisha Cast will reprise her role as Nina Webster, and Nina should have a memorable surprise in store when she shows up at the Shadow Room and catches Tracy and Christine off guard. To me, this sounds like one of those lighter, nostalgic moments that Y&R fans can enjoy amid all the heavier drama. Elsewhere, Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman will face some work-related tension, while Sally Spectra will become increasingly alarmed by Billy's revenge-driven behavior. Sally may realize that Billy is becoming far too consumed by Chancellor and could plead with him to remember the promises he made to her. Sally wants Billy focused on their wedding and the baby they're expecting, but I think that may be easier said than done. Billy's fixation on Chancellor appears to be returning with a vengeance, and if he keeps letting revenge control him, he could put his entire future with Sally at risk. Lily Winters will also turn to Jack for help getting Billy under control. But Jack may remind her of something she already knows. Billy doesn't exactly have a history of listening to his brother. I was wondering whether Lily is expecting too much from Jack here, because getting Billy to back down may be nearly impossible once he decides he has a score to settle. The week of August 24th to 28th could bring another important development involving Adam and Christian Newman. While Nick continues dealing with his recovery, Adam may have an opportunity to strengthen his bond with his biological son. And that raises a big question. Could a Christian recast finally arrive soon, allowing viewers to actually see Adam and Christian build a relationship on screen? I think that would give Adam a major emotional storyline, particularly with Nick currently focused on getting his life back on track. As for Billy, I think things could get ugly if his Chancellor takeover begins to fall apart. He has already become increasingly reckless, and if everything he's fighting for slips away, he could completely lose control. Billy's wrath may be directed at anyone who stands between him and Chancellor, and that could put several relationships in serious danger. Finally, Kyle and Victoria may be heading towards something much more dangerous than friendship. Their chemistry has been building, and sooner or later, I think the temptation could become impossible to ignore. Will Kyle and Victoria finally share the kiss they've both been tempted to lean into? I may be wrong, but it feels like Y and R is deliberately putting these two on a dangerous road. If they cross that line, the consequences could be enormous for Kyle, Victoria, and everyone connected to them. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Kyle and Victoria will continue moving closer to trouble, while Billy's Chancellor war could explode into an even bigger scandal. With Victor making moves, Sally losing patience, Adam potentially reconnecting with Christian, and Nina returning to Genoa City, the next 2 weeks could bring plenty of surprises. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, August 18th have several storylines heating up, and I think one of the most interesting developments will involve Kyle Abbott and Victoria Newman. Their growing connection could take another step forward, while a new partnership may create serious trouble for Billy Abbott's plans. First, Kane Ashby is determined to find an ally in his fight against Billy, especially now that Billy is threatening to take over Chancellor. I was wondering whether Jack Abbott will finally decide to help Kane, or if someone else will step in at just the right moment. Either way, Kane doesn't seem ready to back down. He'll do whatever he can to help Lily Winters keep control of Chancellor while protecting his own position as CEO. To me, that means Billy could have a much bigger battle on his hands than he expected. Meanwhile, Victoria will cross paths with Kyle again, and I think their relationship is becoming harder for either of them to ignore. There could be some awkwardness after they nearly kissed during their last conversation, but it looks like they won't let that moment keep them apart for long. Kyle and Victoria will continue opening up to each other, and Kyle may even share more about the latest drama involving Billy. Victoria could provide the support he needs, giving them another reason to grow closer. I'm starting to wonder if Tuesday could finally be the episode where Kyle and Victoria share that long-awaited kiss. The show could certainly tease viewers once again and make us wait even longer, but their chemistry is becoming increasingly obvious. Maybe this time they'll finally stop dancing around their feelings. Over with Danny Romalotti, there's also something special in store. Danny has decided to stop touring and focus more on his life in Genoa City, but that clearly doesn't mean he's walking away from music. In fact, Danny will perform a new song, and I think it could be one of the more emotional moments of the episode. The song will highlight the love between Danny and Christine Blair Romalotti, reminding Christine and viewers that Danny can still express himself through music, even while building a different life in Genoa City. What makes the performance even more interesting is that the song Michael Damian performs comes from his new Mixed Emotions album. So this storyline gives Danny a chance to remain connected to music while also moving forward with his new responsibilities, including managing the Shadow Room. I think Christine will be genuinely touched by Danny's serenade. After everything they've been through, seeing Danny continue creating music could feel like a beautiful reminder of who he is and what their relationship means to him. Overall, Tuesday's episode looks like it could deliver a mix of romance, corporate warfare, and music. Billy may find himself facing stronger opposition from Kane. Kyle and Victoria could move dangerously close to crossing the romantic line. And Danny may prove that stepping away from touring doesn't mean giving up the part of himself that made him a performer in the first place. Monday, August 17th could bring some major shifts in Genoa City. And I think Billy Abbott is about to prove that getting fired is the least of his problems. At Society, Lily Winters will announce that she's rescinding Billy's job offer. However, Billy won't exactly accept the decision quietly. He'll make it clear that, as far as he's concerned, Lily doesn't have the authority to fire him because Chancellor may no longer belong to her. That's where things could get very interesting. Billy will stun Lily and Kane Ashby by explaining why the Abbotts now have a legitimate claim to Chancellor. At first, I think they'll assume Billy has come up with some elaborate scam, but Billy will tell them the story involving John Abbott and a debt that was never paid, then insist that the documents he discovered in the Chancellor archives are completely legitimate. If Billy is right, he isn't trying to steal Chancellor. He believes he's taking back something that legally belongs to his family. Lily will warn Billy that he could lose everything that matters to him if he continues down this path. Still, Billy will refuse to back down. Holden Novak will soon arrive and learn what's happening, which could leave him wondering whether his own position at Chancellor is about to disappear. Meanwhile, over at Jabot, Jack Abbott will surprise Tracy and Ashley Abbott by revealing what Billy uncovered in the Chancellor archives. Neither Ashley nor Tracy will initially be thrilled about Billy going to war over Chancellor. However, Ashley may ultimately see things differently. I think she'll realize that this fight could be exactly what Billy needs, especially after everything he's been through, and she'll advise the family not to stand in his way. Jack will have concerns about John Abbott's legacy being dragged into a scandal, but Tracy and Ashley will convince him that Billy is going to pursue this, whether the family supports him or not. At that point, Jack may have little choice but to step back. Then Kane will call Jack and discover that he's at the office. Kane will head straight over and make a desperate plea for the Abbotts to help him. After all, if Billy succeeds, Kane could be facing some very serious consequences. To me, this storyline could become much bigger than a simple corporate battle. If those documents really are legitimate, Billy may have stumbled onto a piece of Abbott history that completely changes the balance of power in Genoa City. Of course, I could be wrong, but I'm wondering if this is only the beginning of a much messier Chancellor showdown. Elsewhere, Nate Hastings could be taking an important step toward getting his medical career back. At Nate's place, Stephanie Simmons will learn that he's ready to undergo surgery on his hand. Nate will give Stephanie credit for inspiring him to consider returning to medicine, assuming the procedure goes well. Stephanie won't just offer encouragement either. She'll contact a friend who specializes in orthopedic surgery and arrange for her to fly in for a consultation. The surgeon apparently believes Nate could be an excellent candidate for her new technique, giving Nate a real reason to hope that he can return to Genoa City Memorial Hospital as a surgeon. Stephanie will remain optimistic about Nate's future and agree to let him prepare lunch for her. And somehow, grilled cheese may be enough to turn this medical comeback story into something romantic. Nate will impress Stephanie with his cooking skills, and their interaction will have a noticeably flirty quality. I think there could be more chemistry here than either of them initially expected. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest Stephanie and Nate will both seem interested in spending more time together. So, if Nate's surgery goes well, he may not be the only part of his life heading in a new direction. I'm wondering if Nate could end up getting a second chance at both his medical career and his love life. And honestly, that could make this storyline even more interesting to watch. I think the week of August 17th to 21st could bring some major power struggles on the Young and the Restless, especially with Chancellor becoming the center of a very messy corporate battle. Now that Billy Abbott has evidence suggesting Chancellor actually belongs to the Abbott family, I'm expecting him to waste little time trying to push Kane Ashby and Lily Winters out of the company. To me, this could put Lily in a desperate position. I think she'll look for backup from the Abbott family, and Jack Abbott may be one of the first people she turns to. Kane, meanwhile, may realize that he needs some serious help of his own. I was wondering whether he could even approach Victor Newman for assistance in stopping Billy's takeover plans. That would certainly be an interesting alliance, considering how many times these families have been on opposite sides of the business wars in Genoa City. Victor, of course, may have his own strategy. I think he'll focus on damaging Billy's credibility and could potentially go as far as creating evidence that makes it appear the Chancellor loan was already paid in full. If Victor really manufactures documents to challenge Billy's proof, this corporate fight could become even more dangerous. I wouldn't be surprised if Billy becomes furious once he realizes what Victor is doing. Sally Spectra may have every reason to worry about what Billy could do next if his anger gets the better of him. There's also a much more hopeful storyline involving Nate Hastings. Stephanie Simmons will reach out to her friend, an orthopedic surgeon, to get Nate's consultation for his hand procedure underway. The ultimate goal is to help Nate return to the operating room. I think this could be an important step toward getting him back to the career he finds most fulfilling. Victor will also talk with Nikki Newman about how they can best support Nick Newman. At the same time, Sharon Newman will seek an update from Nick's rehabilitation center. I'm curious whether Sharon will finally receive some encouraging news about Nick's recovery. Meanwhile, Danny Romalotti's new song and Nina Webster's return to Genoa City should provide some lighter moments. Tracy Abbott and Christine Blair Romalotti will be especially happy to have Nina back in town, and I think her return could bring some welcome nostalgia. Matt Clark, however, may not have much luck with Sharon. His attempt to earn her forgiveness could fall flat, and I think Sharon may be far less willing to forget the past than Matt hopes. Over at Newman Media, Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson are also heading towards some tension as they get back to business. I suspect the conflict could involve coverage of Billy's corporate battle with Victor, and possibly whether Newman Media should publish stories containing Victor's version of events. If Victor wants to use the media to hurt Billy, Adam and Chelsea could find themselves caught right in the middle. And finally, Victoria Newman and Kyle Abbott are set for more bonding scenes. I think the growing chemistry between them could become increasingly difficult to ignore, so we may see even more sparks flying as the week unfolds. Overall, I think this week has a little bit of everything. A corporate war over Chancellor, Victor potentially fighting dirty, Nate taking a major step toward returning to surgery, Nick's recovery, Sharon dealing with Matt, and some new romantic tension between Victoria and Kyle. If these spoilers play out as expected, Genoa City could be in for another very dramatic week. The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates suggest that Nick Newman's battle with addiction may be far from over. I think Nick truly hit rock bottom during that intense motel room encounter with Marie Kirkland. But reaching that point doesn't mean the road ahead will suddenly become easy. To me, Nick now seems determined to put real effort into his recovery. He wants to regain control of his life, return to some sense of normalcy, and build a healthier future. But as anyone familiar with addiction knows, recovery can come with difficult temptations, and Nick may soon discover that walking away from drugs is easier said than done. I was wondering how long Nick's drug dealer would allow him to simply say no. Apparently, the answer may be not very long. The dealer reportedly continues trying to tempt Nick with fentanyl, creating another major obstacle just when Nick is attempting to turn his life around. Some behind-the-scenes photos from Y&R have added even more fuel to this storyline. In one of the images, Nick appears to be standing over a man who looks like the same drug dealer connected to his addiction struggles. Chris Wenchel plays the dealer, who has already appeared in several scenes involving Nick's battle with substance abuse. What makes this even more interesting is that the dealer has already appeared in Nick's nightmares, trying to pull him back toward drugs. Now, it looks like that nightmare could become a very real confrontation. I think Nick may finally decide that enough is enough and deliver a serious warning. But there could be more behind this confrontation than simply Nick protecting his own sobriety. If the dealer starts targeting someone else close to Nick, or if he turns out to be connected to Marie as well, Nick could become even more determined to stop him. And this is where I think things could get dangerous. The behind-the-scenes images appear to show Nick physically attacking the dealer, with the man lying on the ground beneath him after taking a brutal hit. If Nick loses control in the heat of the moment, he could go much further than he intended. I'm not sure whether the dealer will simply be knocked unconscious, or whether this confrontation could take a much darker turn. If Nick crosses the line and seriously injures, or potentially even kills, the man, his recovery journey could suddenly become a completely different kind of crisis. That could leave Nick facing consequences that have nothing to do with drugs and everything to do with violence, guilt, and possible legal trouble. Interestingly, some of the filming reportedly captures the confrontation from the dealer's point of view while he is down on the ground. I think that could make for a particularly intense sequence when these scenes finally air. Nick has been fighting to reclaim his life, but this storyline suggests that his biggest challenge may not be simply resisting temptation. He may also have to learn how to control the anger and desperation that come with trying to escape the world he has been trapped in. Maybe Nick will manage to stop himself before things go too far. Or maybe this confrontation will become the moment that sends his recovery into an entirely new crisis. Either way, I think some intense drama is ahead for Nick Newman on The Young and the Restless. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Matt Clark may have the worst possible timing when he shows up at Crimson Lights and asks Sharon Newman an important question. Can she forgive him? I think Matt knows he has a lot to answer for. Although he has been trying to make a fresh start and make amends for his past behavior, it seems he still feels the need to have a private conversation with Sharon. Considering everything he has done to her, that conversation could go very badly. Matt has hurt Sharon more deeply than almost anyone, so I was wondering if this apology is really about making peace, or if Matt simply wants to ease his own guilt. Either way, he may soon find out that saying, "I'm sorry," doesn't magically erase years of pain. Sharon previously encouraged Matt to leave Genoa City when he was considering a fresh start elsewhere. However, Matt ultimately decided to stay because of his romance with Phyllis Summers and the new job opportunity she offered him. Sharon also defended Noah Newman and Sienna Bacall when they decided to return to Los Angeles. She refused to let Matt believe he had enough influence to force them out of town. To Sharon, it was much more about Noah and Sienna taking control of their own lives and making their own choices. But there is a much bigger problem Matt may not be able to apologize away. Matt is still responsible for the circumstances that resulted in Sharon's son being away. On top of that, he played a major role in the chain of events that sent Nick Newman down his devastating path with addiction. With Nick now dealing with rehab and the consequences of his struggles, I think Sharon will have even more reason to be furious with Matt. She certainly hasn't forgotten the horrible things he has done to her over the years. Matt was truly monstrous in the past, and it sounds like he will finally acknowledge just how terrible his actions were. In the August 19th episode, he may pour his heart out and plead with Sharon to forgive him. That puts Sharon in a difficult position. Does she accept his apology and try to move forward? Or does she finally tell Matt that some damage simply cannot be repaired? I'm leaning toward the second possibility. Sharon doesn't seem ready to forgive Matt just because he is willing to grovel. In fact, I think she could unleash all of her anger over Nick's situation and remind Matt that his mistakes are still hurting the people she loves. To me, that could make this conversation much more explosive than Matt expects. He may walk into Crimson Lights hoping for forgiveness and walk out realizing that Sharon simply isn't ready to give it. Of course, I could be wrong, and perhaps Sharon will surprise everyone by showing Matt some mercy. But given everything that has happened, it would make sense if she rejected his request immediately and made it clear that forgiveness is not something he can demand or expect. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest Matt could be in for some very bad news when Sharon gives him her answer. Now the big question is whether his apology will actually change anything, or whether Sharon will make him face the full weight of his past. I think Billy Abbott and Audra Charles have never exactly been the best of friends. In fact, the feeling has been pretty mutual. But lately, Billy seems to be seeing Audra in a different light, especially after realizing just how good a friend she has been to Sally. And from the August 17th sneak peek photos, it looks like Billy and Audra may finally be starting to warm up to each other. Billy has plenty to celebrate right now. His archaeological hunt through Chancellor's vaults appears to have paid off, and he believes he has found proof that the Abbotts have a legitimate claim to Chancellor. Naturally, Billy is feeling pretty good about himself. So he decides to celebrate at the athletic club, and Audra happens to be the person sharing that drink with him. I was wondering if this could be the beginning of a surprising friendship, because Billy is clearly much more comfortable around Audra than he used to be. But then there's Sally. Sally has been away in Los Angeles while all of this has been happening, and now she's back in Genoa City. One of the sneak peek photos shows her spotting Billy and Audra together from a distance. To me, that feels like an important moment. Sally is about to learn that Billy's latest obsession may have actually produced something substantial. After all the digging, investigating, and chasing after Chancellor, Billy believes he has finally hit pay dirt. I think Sally could be impressed by that, but seeing Billy happily sharing a drink with Audra could add another layer to her reaction. Could Sally become suspicious? Or is this simply an innocent celebration between two people who are finally putting their differences aside? I may be wrong, but the timing certainly makes the situation interesting. Meanwhile, Billy may be thinking of Chancellor as if it is already his, but Jack and Kyle Abbott know the situation is much more complicated. If Billy's discovery really does give the Abbotts a claim to Chancellor, the corporation wouldn't belong exclusively to Billy. It would become part of the Abbott family's larger business interests. And Jack has another problem. Chancellor currently belongs to Lily Winters, and Jack doesn't seem eager to simply take it away from her. So rather than immediately jumping on Billy's plan, Jack decides to bring Ashley and Tracy into the conversation. That raises a major question. What should the Abbotts actually do with Chancellor? Should they fold the company into the family business and allow Billy to take the lead? Or should they leave things alone until they know exactly how strong Billy's claim really is? I think this could become much bigger than Billy's latest victory. What started as an archaeological hunt could turn into a major Abbott family power struggle, with Lily caught directly in the middle. And with Sally now watching Billy and Audra from a distance, I can't help wondering whether Billy's biggest discovery is about to create an entirely different kind of problem for him. The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates suggest that Lucas Adams may be moving into an exciting new chapter following his unexpected departure from the CBS soap. Adams, who played Noah Newman on Y&R and is also known for his role as Trip Johnson on Days of Our Lives, made a surprisingly quick exit from Genoa City. However, I think fans can take some comfort in knowing that they won't have to wait long to see him on screen again. A recent Instagram post from New Beginnings Entertainment, the agency representing Adams, offered some interesting insight into what happened behind the scenes. The agency made it clear that Adams' departure was not necessarily a reflection of his performance as an actor. According to the agency, sometimes these kinds of changes simply come down to storytelling decisions. With a new writer coming aboard, the story apparently shifted, and Noah and Sienna Bacall were pushed out of Genoa City. That actually makes Noah's exit feel a little less permanent to me. In the storyline, Noah decided to return to Los Angeles with Sienna in an effort to get away from all the chaos surrounding Matt Clark and the drama in Genoa City. Noah has also made it clear that this move is supposed to be temporary. So I think the door is still wide open for Noah Newman to eventually come home. The bigger question is what that return would look like. Would Noah come back as a single man, or would Sienna still be part of his life? At this point, there's no clear answer. But considering how temporary his departure has been presented, I wouldn't completely rule out a future comeback. And while fans wait to see what happens with Noah, Lucas Adams certainly isn't sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. His agency recently revealed that he has landed a guest starring role on the ABC primetime series R.J. Decker. The agency also teased another project that is being kept extremely secret, describing it as a really exciting opportunity that has been keeping Adams busy this month. According to Adams' IMDb page, he is set to play Liam Jansen in the second season premiere of R.J. Decker, which is scheduled to air on September 15th. I think that's great news for Adams. Leaving Y&R may have been disappointing for viewers who enjoyed seeing him as Noah, But this new opportunity gives him another chance to show what he can do outside the soap world. As for that mysterious secret project, there simply isn't enough information yet to know what it is. And honestly, I'm wondering if that secrecy could make the eventual announcement even more interesting. For now, though, it's reassuring to know that Lucas Adams has plenty going on. His departure from The Young and the Restless doesn't necessarily mean we've seen the last of him, and Noah's temporary move to Los Angeles leaves plenty of room for a Genoa City comeback down the road. I could be wrong, of course, but I think Y&R fans should keep Noah Newman's return on their radar. With plenty of Newman family drama still ahead, there could be a very interesting reason for Noah to find his way back home. The Young and the Restless spoilers promise plenty more twists and turns in Genoa City, so Noah's story may not be finished just yet. I think Sally Spectra may be heading toward a devastating double betrayal on The Young and the Restless if Billy Abbott gets a little too close to Audra Charles. Could Sally end up losing both her fiancé and her best friend at the same time? What makes this situation interesting to me is that Billy wasn't always comfortable with Audra. He knew about her complicated history with Kyle Abbott and the ways she had betrayed him in the past. Billy understood that Audra could be extremely calculating, and I think that was one reason he didn't like Sally getting too close to her. But things have changed. Through Sally, Billy and Audra have gradually developed a much better relationship. Billy has watched Audra support Sally, and over time he seems to have started trusting her. He can see that Sally and Audra work well together, especially with their business partnership, and that may have caused his guard to come down. But I was wondering, could Billy be getting a little too comfortable with Audra? Sally and Audra became friends because they realized they had more in common than they initially thought. Both women have been treated like outsiders in Genoa City, and both have made questionable choices that continue to follow them. Of course, Audra still knows how to push her luck, especially when it comes to the Abbott family and Victor Newman. So even though she and Sally are partners in Spectre Charles, I don't think that automatically means Audra would never betray her. In fact, Audra might initially have innocent intentions. She could simply be trying to comfort Billy and remind him how much the Chancellor situation is hurting Sally. Billy has become increasingly obsessed with Chancellor, and Sally has already had to put up with a lot because of it. Remember, Billy and Sally originally started their company together, only for Billy to step away when Chancellor became his priority again. I think Sally may be reaching the point where she has simply had enough of hearing about Billy's obsession with Chancellor. And that's where Audra could become dangerous. If Audra is there when Billy is vulnerable, she may end up giving him exactly the kind of emotional support he has been missing. One conversation could lead to another, and before either of them realizes it, they could cross a line they can never uncross. Could Billy and Audra end up sleeping together? If that happens, I think the aftermath could be much more explosive than the betrayal itself. Billy might immediately regret what he has done, while Audra could be forced to deal with the consequences of betraying the woman who trusted her. And Sally? I think she would be absolutely devastated. She wouldn't just be dealing with a cheating fiancé, she would also be losing the friend she trusted and the business partner who had become such an important part of her life. So I have to wonder if this could leave Sally facing a completely different future, one where she is forced to run her company without Billy, rethink her friendship with Audra, and potentially prepare to raise her child without the man she thought would be by her side. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, that would be a very Young and the Restless twist. Billy's obsession with Chancellor has already created tension in his relationship with Sally, and Audra has proven that she knows exactly how to take advantage of complicated situations. The big question is whether Audra would deliberately betray Sally, or whether she and Billy could simply make one terrible decision that changes everything. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, August 17th could set up a surprisingly messy battle over Chancellor, especially since Billy is already celebrating a victory that hasn't actually happened yet. Billy filled Jack in on his discovery that John loaned money to Chancellor, and that money was never repaid. If Billy's interpretation is correct, that would mean the Abbotts now have a claim to Chancellor. But I think there's a pretty important detail Billy is overlooking. Nothing has been finalized yet. Jack seems to understand that. Rather than immediately making a move, he's taking the information under consideration. He also decides to tell Ashley and Tracy about the possible business shift himself. To me, that makes sense. Whatever happens with Chancellor could have major implications for the family, but Jack doesn't want his sisters hearing about it through gossip. Billy, however, has absolutely no interest in waiting for the facts. He rushes off to Lily and Kane with the news, practically acting as if Chancellor has already been handed back to him. I was wondering if Billy even realizes how premature this is. He seems convinced that because he wants the company, and because he believes the Abbotts now have the leverage to take it, the matter is basically settled. But business doesn't usually work that way. I think Kane could be the perfect person to remind Billy that there are contracts, negotiations, ownership issues, and plenty of other complications standing between a discovery and an actual takeover. Of course, knowing Billy, he may have to learn that lesson the hard way. And honestly, that's what makes this storyline frustrating for me. We've got a conflict where it's difficult to find anyone to completely root for. Billy is acting smug about something that hasn't been confirmed, while everyone else is potentially dealing with the consequences of decisions that could affect their lives and businesses. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling this situation is going to get much messier before anybody gets what they want. Meanwhile, Nate has decided that he wants to return to medicine and become a doctor again. He turns to Stephanie, who is now chief of staff at the hospital, for help. Stephanie has already offered Nate a job, so I think she'll be more than willing to help him figure out what he needs to do to get back into the operating room. If Nate can get the necessary treatment and meet the requirements, it seems very possible that Stephanie could eventually welcome him back as a surgeon. To me, Nate's storyline feels much more straightforward than the Chancellor mess. He knows what he wants, and now he has someone in a position to help him make it happen. The bigger question is whether getting his old career back will be as easy as he hopes.